Hey everyone, it's book review time. I feel like I have to adopt this more quiet voice when it comes to the book reviews. How's it going? Sunday. I'm so far so good, staying well out in front of my goal of reviewing and reading. More to the point, reading two books at least a minimum a month, and I'm more on like a clip of get this 3 books a month. Yeah, you heard that right. That's about the schedule I'm on now, and I've been reading a good variety of books. I try to have one going on my phone and then one going in paperback or hardcover. What some might refer to as physical media. And this was one, and the Vonnegut books. This is the next Vonnegut book review. This is one that I did read in a physical capacity, and I'm gonna try and keep buying those because I used to own them all, which is it's kind of an annoying fact that I'm rebuying them after selling and giving some of them away after my big book purge of a few years ago, that was part of a greater purge of like giving and getting rid of things in my life, which was a positive, and I don't really on a purely symbolic level for me who can kind of like lean into hoarding on some level. I don't really feel like I've ever been a hoarder, but I like collecting things. It's hard for me to part with some items sometimes. So I did go through like kind of a reckoning like I said a few years back. Probably it was pre-COVID. It was like probably like 2017 or 18, maybe, yeah, right around there before I moved into the house I'm in now. Um I was living in Philly, and I was just like, man, I have all this junk, and it's sort of piling up. And so I just started. I like would hold something and be like, do I need this? And with all my basically, I kept like 10 books, and the rest I just gave away, or I donated, or I sold online. Some of them, I think, and it was just sort of a. I had a garage sale. I sold a bunch. Yeah, it was just like I gave away all my record collection. I mostly gave those away. Um, because it was just like taking up all this space and just and I made the decision then and there to kind of just go into like ebook territory. But it's funny because even back then I wasn't even reading. There's mustard on my keyboard. I was like, what is this yellow? It's yellow mustard, little dot. Um, so yeah, but I have found the joy in being able to pick up a book and reading it, and I do think there's a simple joy in that. And like I said, I don't really regret. A little bit regret on just a purely financial level that I'm rebuying this stuff. But I found, and this is a purely unsolicited plug, because I do think it's a good website. It's called Better World. I think I've talked about it on a previous book review. I'm probably rehashing a lot of stuff like I normally do. But Better World Books, and I think they're a nonprofit, and they just you can find great prices. They do a lot of like 20% off 3 used books, things like that. And I do think it's a great site, and they donate a lot of books, and they give a lot of money to charity. And I don't know exactly how the company works, but I mean, as opposed to like Amazon to buy your books, even used books, I feel like it's a great alternative to anyone out there. You can find stuff almost across the board. They don't have everything, but they have a lot of titles, and you can get it at low prices used, and that's what I've been doing lately. So let's actually talk about the book that this episode is based on. This is the third Kurt Vonnegut book, and not to my surprise, probably not to anyone's surprise, they've all improved exponentially with each entry. So if you're ranking these, I think it's a pretty easy. If you're doing a in progress ranking, I think it goes in chronological order, with Mother Night really being the best of the bunch so far. They're all. What I really appreciate is that how different they all have been. Because I think maybe after having not read Kurt Vonnegut in a while, like I said, I was probably in my early 20s when I read through every one of his books, and then now I'm in my early 40s. So it's a good 20 years passage of time, and I don't remember anything about the books. In my mind, I felt like they while yes, he does have a prose style that he harnesses and is similar throughout. the actual content of what the books are about are all so far been vastly different, which I've appreciated. I think this one gets a 10. Um, but I will say that like I did also find it with the same as the first two books, and in Science of Titans especially. So I feel like the entry points were a little difficult. Like it took me a little bit of some time to get into it, and I don't that's not it's not like a huge complaint, because when I did get into it, I zipped through it. I read it, and I think I read the second half of the book in like 3 days, which I mean some people read a book like this, which is not a hard read, in like a half a day. I mean, there's readers who have that time and allot that time and are fast readers, and that's just they're kind of conditioned to do that. But that's not who I am. I'm just not. I'm not a super fast reader. I don't necessarily give myself moments to read. I sort of just it can differentiate greatly day to day how much I'm reading. But it helps to have a book that you're really into, and that's what I found out. And I like this book, and the way the story kind of just when it really hits it and gets going is like really fascinating, and it's just he's just I mean like how many I was wary to start giving out 10 out of 10s to, but he's Kurt Vonnegut. I mean, right? It's like Stanley Kubrick on some level. Some of these masters just have multiple basically perfect creations, and I think this is the first one that would ring true on that. And I wrote a little bit of my short reviews for these on the written word, which I'm most of these book reviews on the actual website, the reviews are going to be pretty simple. But this one made me think of a couple things lately, because this one Vonnegut is I think he's a kind of a classic anti-war thinker, and this is the first book that is really truly about war, especially World War II. Obviously, that's the whole plot of the book. But his worldview in adopting an anti-war stance in 1960s and onward through the 20th century is different than it is now, because a lot of people are anti-war. There's probably plenty of what I would say like the majority. Like that's even just like saying that's like a poisoned moniker anyway, is saying anti-war, because and it's sick and sad, equal parts sick and sad, that it's become that, because it's been tainted by just and people have been conditioned into kind of like thinking of this as like a war at some point being an inevitability. But it is hippy dippy to kind of take on the mindset that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. And I do think that he, as much as I know, and I'm only not even going off of like what he wrote in nonfiction or just in interviews, because I think he was pretty staunchly anti-war and all that. But just as a document based on the pages of the fiction, I think that message of being the truly the anti-war message is that like no any side of the conflict on some level is just engaging in war, like engaging in war on any level, just even on a mental level is wrong. And we've lost that now. Like you see it with just people flying these Ukraine flags like it's a fucking sports team. Like it just doesn't add up to me. And the idea you have to choose a side, you're sort of already saying that you're pro the side. So this is a war. So it's I know this is a touchy, complicated area, and I'm sure that many people out there listening to this would hear what I'm saying right now and be like, "Oh, this fucking naive idiot." And I think there is a bit of naivete in the mindset of like the purely anti-war person. But is that a product? And this is the question: is that a product of the person being naive, or the person kind of not being willing to accept something, or is that a product of a conditioning in a world that's been built from a completely fucked up and unfair model? Like it rings to me that it's either could be true, but the latter is more true in my mind, and that's why I don't subscribe to any of it. When and this is, I know I hate that I'm just going down this path, but this is why like you can't be anti-war and then say, oh yeah, I think we should be giving billions of dollars to Ukraine to defend themselves. Like, I feel like it's horrible that a country was invaded by another country. Like that, that's a separate issue than perpetuating the kind of the global war machine, um, which seems to be happening. And I have no answers for this. I mean, I'm just spitballing and and saying my little bit of piece here on whatever little bit of airwaves that I've kind of carved out in the world. And I don't know. I know it doesn't mean much, and that's also kind of a sad realization. But I also I am proud a little bit of the fact that, like, I do feel like I belong in this camp of people like Vonnegut who truly truly adopt that kind of anti-war mindset. All right. Anyway, that's a little bit of a rant here on Mother Night. It's fucking great. It's a great book.